Hey YouTube, back again. And I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while, and that is another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Underrated. Now this time we're going to do it on a house that is fairly well known in this community. That is the house of Bond number 9. So, I have done quite a few splits of these, done 4 bottles, multiple splits on each bottle. I don't own the whole line, I've sampled most of it. I own 5 bottles, as well as a whole bunch of samples and decants that I've used. Enough that I feel I can give a pretty good explanation and impression of the house in general. So just very quickly go through the ones that I do have and I'll be talking about. The bottles: I Love New York for All, Coney Island, Fire Island, New Harlem, West Side, and then I'm just going to go through the samples, I'm not going to show them. There is Andy Warhol Silver Factory, Andy Warhol Success as a Job in New York, Brooklyn, J. Bond, Chinatown, Cooper Square, Ode to New York, Hamptons, Harrods Amber, Harrods for him, Highline, New York Amber, New York Oud, I Love New York for All, or no, for him, New York Oud, Nui de NoHo, Riverside Drive, Saks for him, Sag Harbor, what the hell is this? Wall Street, of course, Washington Square, and finally West Broadway. That's what I have some juice of here. Now, a little bit about Bond. They get a bad rap in the community as being a very linear house. And, well, we'll start off with the bad, because this is really what the bad category is. They get a bad rap for being a very linear house, doing very similar scents. That are very, all within the same genre, all within the kind of green, citrus, floral, light tea genre. And that, you know, if you kind of took 10 of them, you could combine them all into one, and you wouldn't really change a whole lot. And I tend to agree with that. I think they do have a lot of scents that are redundant, and that if you have 1 or 2, you don't need more than that, because they really just, they all cover the same base. And there's really it's hard to pinpoint one bottle that they have that's bad, so to speak, that's the worst of the house. I don't think there's really any one that really sticks out like a sore thumb. But some of the ones that fall into this category, things like West Broadway, Ode to New York, Highline, Harrods for him, J. Bond, the new Sag Harbor, they're not identical, but they really don't all need to be there. They really don't. There's even some more. The new I Love New York for Father's Day, the I Love New York for Mother's Day. They really need to stop making I Love New Yorks. It's ridiculous at this point. They have one for Mother's Day, Father's Day, Earth Day, Thursday, Friday. It's nuts. I think if they stayed away from doing those for a while, that would do them a lot of good. Stay away from doing the I Love New Yorks. Stay away from doing these, you know, ones that they've done a lot of already. And they do have some that are very good. Brooklyn, for instance. I'm not a big fan of it, but for a green springtime scent, it's very good. It's very good, very unique, very well done. I personally am not a fan of it, but I appreciate it. And they did a good job with that. But then they started doing it over and over and over and over again, and they don't need to do that anymore. Stay away from it. The other thing that they get a knock for, and that is in the bad category, is they've copied fragrances. They won't tell you they did, but they did. There really are three big offenders here in that category, and that is Hamptons, blatant ripoff of Silver Mountain Water. Nui de NoHo, it's a blatant ripoff of Terry Mugler's Angel, and the most infamous J. Bond is virtually identical to Green Arrow Street. These 3, I don't believe they are any better than the ones that they copied. I don't think owning them is worth it. if you have the other. Since these are all very high priced to begin with, there's no advantage to owning them over their counterparts. Not like Cool Water with Green Irish Tweed, where you can get Cool Water for a fifth of the price and get something that's sort of close to Green Irish Tweed. It's not the case here. But they even have some other ones. You could make the case that New Harlem is a knockoff of Rochas Man. I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think this is a definitely better scent than Rochas, and they're not completely the same. You can make the case that New York Oud is a bit of a knockoff of Montal's Black Oud. I think there's a few other notes in here that do separate it, but not that much. They are pretty similar. This one doesn't have as much oud as Black Oud does. But they really need to stop doing that. Fortunately, it doesn't look like they've done it in a while. None of their recent scents have really been in this blatant knockoff category. You'll notice that two of these knockoffs were of Creed, and the founder of Bond, Louise Rum, used to be, before she started Bond, was, I believe she was the head distributor in the U.S. for Creed, so she used to work for them. Makes you wonder where she got these ideas, so that's that. So really, like I said, no one bottle really sticks out as the worst of them all. They just kind of all fit into these categories. So that's the bad. The good. What do I think is the best juice from the house? Now, I'm going to go against the grain here a little bit. I know a lot of people would pick New Harlem. This is the most talked about one. It's the most hyped one. It certainly was the easiest split to fill. And for good reason. It's great juice. It really is. But for me, the one that I like the best, the one that originally turned me on to the Bond House, is West Side. This, I think, is some of the most unique juice I've smelled, not just from the house, but in general. It smells like very high-priced, very distinctive wine. With a little bit of light woods, a little bit of rose mixed in. It's just an excellent scent, very versatile. You can use it just about all seasons. Longevity is great. This will go all day on you. It's not overpowering, but it's definitely noticeable. It's just overall very good. This is really, in my view, the best from the house. I've heard some people say that this is like Noir de Noir from Tom Ford. I don't know where that comparison comes from. I'm sure they both have floral-ish, rose-ish notes, but that's really where the comparisons stop. Completely. So, underrated. What are the most underrated scents from this house? This one, now if I was doing this last year, I would have said Coney Island. Hands down. Because I think this is their best summer juice. But, this really isn't underrated anymore, because I think I split 3 of these bottles. Suddenly this summer it just took off in popularity. Everybody seems to love it. And for good reason. It's great juice. Very good summer scent, if you haven't tried it. But there's a few underrated ones here. Obviously, in the previous video I did of unknown scents from well-known houses, I highlighted Saks for him. Great juice here, very unique chili pepper note. I talk about it more in there, so I won't go into too much detail here. But there's 3 other ones that I think really are underrated and are part of a category that Bond does not get a lot of credit for, that they should. And those 3 are New York Amber, Washington Square, and I Love New York for All. This one sticks out like a sore thumb in the I Love New York line, because it's good. But these 3 are all scents that are strong. They are definitive. They are wearable in the wintertime and in cold weather days. Like I said at the beginning, Bond generally has been known for doing these spring and summer scents that are redundant. They're not necessarily known for their heavier juices. these are examples of their heavier juices, and that they've done pretty good with. Washington Square is a different take on an amber. It's a little bit on the feminine side, but it's certainly wearable by a man. It's got a nice little honey note in there. It's got an odd purple rose note. It's a little bit different, but it's nice. Some nice amber, a little bit of oud, not a whole lot, and a couple of other things. I don't remember the notes off the top of my head. But very good. If you haven't tried it, check it out. New York Amber, very highly concentrated amber rose scent. Not like an Ombre Nuit, it's not that kind of amber rose. It's not too far off from New York Oud, but certainly it stands on its own 2 feet. They're not copies of one another. Great projection, great longevity here. Definitely good for a cold winter day, for a nice fall day. And I love New York for all. This is a great... I like to think of it as New Harlem Light a little bit. It's got that coffee, cocoa vibe to it. That's very good. There are definite differences between this and New Harlem. It's not as sweet. It does have a little bit of a geranium note in it that does tone it down. Longevity is not the greatest, but it's good, and the price on this is lower. For some reason, not a lot of people know about this. Maybe it's because they look at the I Love New York line and they just automatically think, garbage. Since a lot of them kind of are garbage. But this is definitely one to check out. Don't overlook it. Doesn't get a lot of play. I've tried to split it once and it didn't fill. I've seen somebody else try and split it and it didn't fill. It's worth looking at. It's good juice. It's definitely a good offering. So, that is the good, the bad, the underrated for Bond. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I haven't tried all of them. There are 50, 60 something cents in the house. And I have not tried all of them. I have tried most of them. But let me know what you think. Are there more underrated ones to look at? Things that would fall into the underrated category, or even the good category. Hell, if you want to tell me some more bad ones, be my guest. But definitely put some interest in here. Check out the ones that are underrated. The house is not as bad as some of the press gives it. Some of the hypers in the community might say. So there you have it. I will talk to you soon.